Well, good day to you all. This is Joseph from Adjuvant Protocols for Healing. Welcome to you all this morning. Great to be with you and to have a discussion on this condition that's known in medical science as multiple sclerosis. As I've said many times, our work as healers, as practitioners, is not so much to fight disease, or not at all to fight disease, but to in fact begin to reestablish a balance in the person's physical body, their energy field, which includes their mind and their heart, emotional part of them, and the physical part. And so that's what we'll be looking at today in depth. Please have your book open, my book, Adjuvant Protocols for Healing. One of the main reasons that we put in extra space in the different pages is so that you can write notes. And today is a great example. You will need to have those notes, have a place to write notes. So have a pencil or a pen and paper, the book page open, which is page 257 on MS. As you know, that all of these can be heard on my YouTube channel. If you have any difficulty with this, you can always get back to me. And we and my network will help you get on to listen to these, but they're very easy to get on and listen to. And there's always notes, of course. And as you well know, as nutritionists, as anyone that uses nutrition as an adjuvant, as an adjunctive part of what their primary modality is, we always have to understand, and reductionism does not do this. Reductionism isolates, where we want to look at the whole picture. We want to look at the person as a whole person, not just one part of their body that is in distress, that is in breakdown. So that is a great difference. And so, but as I say, it's important to realize what the condition is, to find out what it is. And there are many different types of neurological conditions. We looked at Parkinson's a few months ago, and there are others as well. Most of them all tie into really what we're going to talk about today. Multiple sclerosis is a great example of a breakdown of the whole body, but specifically, of course, the nervous system, the brain, the nervous system, and the musculoskeletal system because of that. Remember, the deterioration in the muscles is only because of the problems in the brain and the nervous system. So we're going to look at this, and then we're going to apply the specific nutrition related to that inability for the reserves of the body to provide what it needs. The body is missing something, and it's been missing something with MS for a long time. MS does not just come on. It's a condition where it's been happening gradually for probably decades. How bad is multiple sclerosis? You could look it up as I did. It's about every 4 people in 1,000. Every 3 to 4, they said 3.5 to 1,000, which you can decide whether that's a lot or not. I would say that's terrible. So, because this is a condition that individuals have to live with without choice for the rest of their lives. So, and not a lot of progress, of course, has been made in this. only in dealing with the symptomatology. So multiple sclerosis is potentially, these are all different articles that I found that I felt were appropriate for you. You can always click on these different articles and read them through thoroughly. Multiple sclerosis is a potentially disabling disease of the brain and spinal cord. That's our target as far as nutritional application and the factors related to that nutritional implication in being very specific to fill the need there, that what has been missed, what has been lost, what is not being absorbed is all part of this. Of course, the spinal cord, which relates to the central nervous system. In MS, the immune system attacks the protective sheath. This is very important to our considerations. The myelin that covers the nerve fibers and causes communication problems between your brain and your spinal cord and the rest of your body. Eventually, the disease can cause permanent damage or deterioration of the nerves. So I won't read any further than that. But in my experience over the 50 years I've been doing this work, I have realized that conditions related, many conditions, or all conditions really, have a mental and emotional related factors. And this is so true in conditions like Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis, especially. I have never worked or never given guidance to a health professional, practitioner, or my clients that I did not understand and see and get to that there was a trauma in their life. This is very important that you all get this. MS is triggered. Now, I'm not saying there hasn't been prior breakdown, but MS is triggered by an emotional trauma. This book, Awakening Intuition, I've read before, and it specifically applies here. When something significant happens to us in our lives, the emotionally charged experience gets encoded in the brain. We may not even know the true significance of this experience, yet it and other emotionally charged memories will affect everything we do in the future, from whom we choose for companionship to what we do for a living. By reclaiming the memories stored in our brains, we can understand rationally how the past continually influences our conscious minds and our daily actions and realities. And certainly we see this in this country and in the world today, like no other time in the history of humanity, really. Maybe in the history of other cultures, if we would understand the breakdown of other cultures. We have other memories besides those in our brains. Memories and experiences and the emotions associated with them are also encoded systematically in all the tissues and organs of our bodies, i.e., in this case today, the brain and the spinal cord. These memories and emotions speak to us not via the rational processes of the brain. Going to a therapist, having all kinds of therapy, physically, mentally, emotionally, helps and is really important. But these things related to the brain in our conscious mind are not as significant as working and going deeper into our subconscious in the tissue memory consciousness of the body. But by means of symptoms, so let me read that. These memories and emotions speak to us not via the rational processes of our brain, of the brain, but by means of symptoms and disease in our bodily organs. As substantial numbers of scientific studies have indicated that certain emotional and psychological patterns are associated in specific organs. So what is it, the factor in the brain and the spinal cord? What is it? What is the emotional factor? What is the mental factor? What is the nature of the trauma? Other studies support the link between specific memories and emotions and certain organ-specific diseases, such as breast cancer, coronary heart disease, Parkinson's disease, and today is multiple sclerosis. Now, she wrote this book. And by the way, she's a medical intuitive. She's a wonderful woman. I don't know if she's still in practice. It's an old book. I wish I could say that I learned the connection between memories, dreams, intuition, and healing in a college course, or better yet, through divine inspiration. As fate would have it, however, I had to reach an understanding of this connection the way I believe many, if not most, do, through illness. So we could look at this today that illness, you may not agree with this, illness is a blessing. It is teaching us something. It is forcing us to go deeper. Now, I know this because I got myself through cancer. I know this firsthand. So this is very important. This is recent. This is 2022. I was listening to an Apple recording podcast, and on Apple News, which most of you probably don't have, and I loved it so much, related and thinking of you all and talking today together, that I found the article because I couldn't give you a link to the Apple News. Scientific America, post-traumatic stress, PTSD, how parents' trauma leave biological traces in children. In recent decades, since research by my group and others has confirmed that adverse experiences may influence, I would have left the word may out, but they're being humble. Yes, the next generation through multiple pathways. The most apparent route runs through parental behavior. What kind of an example? And let's not just leave the responsibility with parents, grandparents, healers, teachers. What kind of a responsibility do we have in this? Huge, not just for children, but for one another. But influences during gestation and even changes in eggs and sperm may also play a role. And all these channels seem to involve epigenetics. Yes, that's the new buzzword, but it's always been the fact. We have always looked at the factors, the changes at the cellular level. What is changing? What is not being replicated accurately? And we're going to look at how we can work with that. Alterations in the way that genes function. Epigenetics potentially explains part of why effects of trauma may endure long after the immediate threat, i.e. MS, is gone. And it is also implicated in the diverse pathways by which trauma is transmitted to future generations. Now, I know a lot of you, or some of you, like speaking of this whole area. To look at this first is my thoughts in working with people with MS and my thoughts in general on multiple sclerosis. And this relates to the inability, the people that I have worked with, that they do not have the coping mechanisms to work with traumatic past memories. And I've just given you two great paragraphs on this, two great areas of thought and exploration. Mental and emotional unraveling and inability to resolve these past traumas. My father's a simple man, but he used to say, you may never get over incidences in your life, but it's important to find a way to move beyond them into joy and fulfillment. People with multiple sclerosis, they just don't have it. They struggle with that. They can't let it go. They can't forgive and forget. It's huge for them. And it has devastating effects. But with us helping them, we can help them navigate out of this defense physiology to healing physiology. Prayer, meditation, mental health therapy, all of these things. And we'll look at some more things too. The other thing with MS, now I have a family member with MS, and they've been working with it for quite a while. And what they're finding now is this downstream emotional piece. MS can cause significant anxiety, distress, anger, and frustration. There's the unresolved, the lack of resolution from the moment of its very first symptoms, because it's been sitting there underneath already. The uncertainty and unpredictability associated with MS is one of its most distressing aspects. As with any chronic disease in your body, you're always thinking about it. From cancer to multiple sclerosis, you're always thinking about it. It's always there, 24/7. In fact, anxiety is at best as common in MS as depression. Loss of functions and altered life circumstances caused by the disease can be significant causes of anxiety and distress. And they go into about counseling. So we need medical science. We need help, definitely, from a medical standpoint with these people in this tragic condition that's been come into their lives. As much as we might say, as I just said, well, they're learning something. It's very difficult, and it is tragic. The cause of multiple sclerosis is unknown. Well, I question that. And I don't want to be arrogant, but you can decide after I get done today whether you have a greater understanding of possible causes. It's considered an autoimmune disease. Well, there's one cause. There is one implication to a cause right there. They know that. And we'll look at that in depth, in which the body's immune system attacks its own tissue. Well, why is it doing that? How can we prevent that? How can we help with that? How can we assist? In the case of MS, this immune system malfunction destroys the fatty substance that coats the protective nerve fibers in the brain and spinal cord, the myelin sheath. Well, that's a very true statement with one exception. It is not everyone, write this down. It is not a malfunction of the immune system. It is the fulfillment. It is the actual working of the immune system. The immune system is working exactly as it should. It is not malfunctioned. It hasn't. There is a breakdown, and I will explain that. And this is where we get into, this is the whole basis of protomorphology. It's the whole reason Dr. Lee made protomorphogens, how he developed them over years and perfected them for our use now. The immune system is not malfunctioning. Autoimmune disease is not a malfunction. Autoimmune disease is a downstream outcome of breakdown of tissue, one tissue after another, as Lee said. It is the reason why we age as terribly as most people do and die. Medical science is needed, of course, because to keep people going. Overdone in most cases, yes, but necessary in a lot of cases, not just of MS, of all conditions. And it is interesting, related to this immune factor, that, and this is what medical science has really glommed onto. It's really attached itself to this, because what they've found is not only in using medications to block the acceleration of the immune attack on the body, on that specific tissue, the brain and spinal cord tissue, but it has shown that in different experience in people's lives, like pregnancy, and I have another slide on that as well, that the symptoms of multiple sclerosis can completely go away for the 9 months. So there's a factor. Here is the other one, that this is all recent. Now, we know that the immune system is primarily made up of B cells and T cells. T cells relate in our work to the thymus gland. That is the major producer of T cells. Of course, these white blood cells, of course, are made in the bone marrow, and then, but they're also made in other organs, i.e. the thymus. But B cells, I had a B cell cancer. I know this well. B cells also come from the spleen. That's why when we look at products like Immuplex and that supports that immune alliance, you can see how brilliant they are. Because what did John Courtney, when he formulated that after Lee passed away, what did he put in there? He put thymus in there. He put liver in there, which is a huge part of the immune system. He put bone marrow substance in there, and he put spleen in there. And so you can see this in all the products. Dr. Lee and Catalin, the original flagship product, had spleen, liver, adrenal, and kidney in it. So you can see that over the 90 plus years now of standard process, 93 years this year, you can see that the awareness in these great formulators, these great men who made the formulations in standard process, understood these things. Working with mice, the human cells in vitro, the study revealed that the first time that ALCAM, which B cells express at higher levels in people with MS, is what enables B cells to invade the brain via the blood vessels. There it is. There it is. So you could say, well, Joe, you know, you need medication to deal with this. Well, that's true. But you can also support the spleen. You can also support the immune alliance so it finds its balance, so it isn't producing so many of these B cells, which is, by the way, is true in some cancers, as I said. It's true in rheumatoid arthritis, the same B cells overproduced, attacking the brain, and I assume the spinal cord too, and attacking individuals with multiple sclerosis. What the study showed that blocking this ALCAM in mice lessens the flow of B cells to the brain and slows the progression of MS. This is 2022, everyone. This is all new, these. So, and here is another one related to this as well. So the naive B cells are substantially weaker in APCs and may exert anti-inflammatory properties. So when they work with these B cells, getting them to reduce in capacity and reduce in abundance, it reduces modulating effect function on other immune cells. Further, it is likely that subgroups of patients with MS differ in their extent of pathogenic B cell involvement. While the central nervous system lesions in the majority of individuals consistently contain B cells. That's how they discovered this. They were looking at these lesions, which in MS, that's what they get. There's a breakdown of the nerve sheath, then the body forms scar tissue, these lesions. The less B cells, the less the lesions. Plasma cells and antibodies, other historically distinct subtypes, rather display a primarily, can't say that word, dystrophy without an apparent pathogenic contribution of B cells and other products. So you can read this through, yeah, but the point is, this is a new finding and very important that we have to, this is what I was saying, reductionism is just locking into one specific area. Oh, we just have to suppress the immune system. What about balancing immune function so that it doesn't produce these B and T cells that are attacking that tissue? And so this article, which I'm not going to get into as much, this article talks about these new drugs. You know, you've heard of drugs that suppress the immune system, steroidal drugs, and Humira. Couldn't think of the medication. Humira for different conditions, from psoriasis to Crohn's disease. Humira is used widely. These immunomodulators, in other words, suppressing the immune system. And we'll look at this, and we'll look at different natural substances that can help with this, calm the effect. There's just one other continuing point. These immunomodulators work to calm your immune system over an extended period of time. Since it may take 3 to 6 months, it takes time for these drugs to work. And that's why they bring in the fast-acting corticosteroids. Now, the reason I put this in here is because There's a lot of side effects. These people with MS cannot stay on these steroids long. It really breaks down their system further. So from a nutritional standpoint, what do we want to look at? So, and remember, this protocol, I combined it with my knowledge, with other doctors over 50 years that I learned from, and Dr. Lee. If you look at his therapeutic food manual, you will see similar products. Now, as you can see with MS, people are on a lot of medications, they're going for therapy. What can you do? Well, here are the primary five products. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This should not be an or. So just take your pencil and cross that out, because you need these 5 products. And I'm going to go into each of these so that you thoroughly understand. Now, I could not, in how I recommend to keep this down in what people, because this is a lot of supplements. If you take this program, it's a lot. It's a lot. So, and along with everything else they're doing, their ability to actually really stick to it and take these every day, this is all a challenge. But these are the keys: neurotrophin, Minchex, calcifood. You're going to say, Joe, why calcifood? You'll hear in a minute why. SuperFF, which really should be right after neurotrophin, but it is in the top 5. And then Cardio Plus, of course, because MS breaks down the whole muscular skeletal system. So, but these others also consider. You're going to, if this were me with MS, I'd be taking all of these. So, and I'll go into some of the key ones in these also considered and tell you why. So what is the primary goal when we look at this from a nutritional standpoint? We have to remove the burden on the brain and the spinal cord, the nerve tissue, so that it can heal, so that healing may be possible. We have to dissuade that immune system from attacking and that is first. And that's why neurotrophin is the number 1. Now, a lot of you have been on with me for a long time. You're thinking, what about Neuroplex? Yes, either added to, so write that in your notes, either added to, but not at first. At first, you need at least, and I was really low key with neurotrophin. Really, you need 3 times a day. So you can write that in as well. Then to support and rebuild. So what are we thinking as far as the vitamins and the mineral that relates in minerals that relate? Well, the brain and nervous system obviously needs B vitamins, of course. What minerals? Well, we know that zinc is good for the brain and the eyes, which is all part of that nerve alliance. The nervous system is a key one. And calcium, of course. Calcium. Now you could say, well, Joe, I don't see any zinc. There's zinc in Immuplex, and here's calcium lactate. So I had to prioritize, because there is a little zinc in Mintran as well, and a little calcium. I had to prioritize, because you get someone that comes in a wheelchair and they say, I can only take a few things. And I was stretching it to even do 5, but they need lots of these. Now, the gospel according to Joseph, you could say, well, Joseph, what have you found? What are you really thinking about this? This is a condition, you can write this down, in my opinion, is a condition where the perfection of the tissue in the brain and spinal cord, the body's ability to make that normal, perfect, balanced tissue has been lost. And that, everyone, is a pineal issue. This is a pineal condition. There are a lot of nutrients, a lot of hormones and nutrients that cannot get into the pineal. Now, we know that with the abundance, as an example, I don't want to get in too much to the pineal, but I wanted to teach you this as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't mean that the hypothalamus and pituitary aren't involved as well. Of course they are. But this alliance in the brain focused on the pineal, where the perfect rhythm and pattern is, that's where it lives. Everything comes out of that, in my opinion. And we know that things like fluoride in our society. So, again, you could say, well, what's the key? What's the key causes of, this trauma to the body? Well, there's mental and emotional trauma. There's physical trauma, which we'll get to, but there is chemical trauma. And that could be, everyone, that could be as simple as that. It could be that fluoride got in there and their lack of the rebuilding supplements, the rebuilding fatty acids to rebuild and sustain that myelin sheath are not there. There's another factor. But then, of course, the breakdown. Because if you lose the true function and ability of the pineal, everything breaks down fast, especially mentally and neurologically. And so you can read through this one. You can go to my lecture on the pineal. I've given you a whole hour and a half on that. And remember, but the one thing that this is from David Brownstein's book, The Miracle of Nutritional Hormones. And the one thing I wanted to emphasize to you today is about the hormone that melatonin produces, or that the pineal produces, melatonin. Remember that melatonin is not a typical, the pineal are not typical endocrine cells. They're unique. There is no other place in the body that makes similar endocrine cells, and they're called pinealocytes. These cells are also in the eye, by the way, in the human eye. That's why they call the pineal the third eye in esoteric thinking and approaches to spiritual awareness and other. But at the physical healing level, the pineal is really the significance to the brain and the nervous system, as well, of course, as the rest of the endocrine system and every tissue in the body. And here, David Brownstein says it. Melatonin is a hormone secreted from the pineal gland located in the brain. Melatonin is able to enter every cell of the body. The perfect pattern, everyone, is able to enter every cell in the body. Through that hormone, the hormone is the messenger. Through whatever that substance is. Now you could say, well, should I take synthetic melatonin? Well, that will help with your sleep, but that's not going to reestablish the healing that is needed. No, you need the real thing. You need your pineal. So man-made substitutes for nature is not going to do it. It simply is not going to do it. So it's important to realize this. And this is why neurotrophin, neuroplex are so important, because there is pineal in neurotrophin and neuroplex. Along with in neuroplex, you get pituitary and hypothalamus. So here you got to start from the top down. If you want to correct brainstem, which they talk about with as chiropractors, if chiropractors are online, you've got to start from the top down. Got to open the flow of life, of neurological blessing from that power of life, from the top down. And so now, in the also consider, there's a product called Gotu-Kola. Gotu-Kola Complex has Gotu-Kola. It has and ginkgo, which is great for circulation, but the main herb, and it has, of course, the grapeseed, which is similar action as vitamin C for collagen repair. This product I have used to fix from discs in the body, anything where microcirculation is a challenge, i.e. the brain and spinal cord, the eyes, the discs. This is my #1 product, or straight Gotu-Kola. Now, ancient cultures knew this. 2 leaves a day will keep old age away. This is from an old book of this man that traveled around the world and did not take modern science. He found out what the indigenous cultures, how they thought of these different herbs. 2 leaves a day keep old age away. This is Gotu-Kola. This is the claim made by the Sinhalese for Gotu-Kola. This famous longevity plant, which grows profusely in Ceylon, in India, the leaves are extensively used by religious orders to develop spiritual power and to prolong the existence of the brain. Well, what do you mean the brain? The pineal. This is the herb for the pineal. This is the herb to help reestablish. And it is the herb that prevents the scarring, the in not just the grapeseed, but Gotu-Kola itself. These lesions on the spinal cord in MS, the reason they cause so much damage, and that's the focus of medical science, is to prevent these lesions, to get rid of them, using drugs, as I say, to slow down the immune assault. Because when there's damage, there's scar tissue. Scar tissue is not normal collagen tissue. It's not. There's very little blood flow. And so the information from the spinal cord is cut off. The information from the brain to the spinal cord is cut off or limited, depending upon how severe the person is, how ill they are. But if you want to prolong the existence of the brain, you must have this herb, in my opinion. So there's that. The myelin sheath, and this is important when you're looking at using your modality, of course, whether it's acupuncture or chiropractic or homeopathy, whatever it is, you have to understand the tissue you're working with. And here it is. The myelin sheaths are sleeves of fatty tissue. There it is, everyone, that protect your nerve cells. This is why people get MS, the breakdown of this fatty tissue. These cells are part of your central nervous system. Now, remember, there is a lipid wrapper around every nerve cell in your body, but especially the spinal cord, called the myelin sheath, which carries messages back and forth between your brain and the rest of the body. If you have a multiple sclerosis, a disease that causes your immune system to attack your central nervous system, your myelin sheaths can be damaged. Well, I would say it a little differently, that in MS, the immune system attacks the myelin sheath, then the breakdown occurs. And then, of course, it affects your nerves and your muscles. You can read the rest of this. So most of the nerves in your body are covered with this protective layer called myelin. It is a lot like the insulation on electrical wires. This is a great visual. And thanks, Mark Anderson, for sharing these with us, with me, so to you, because he's great at giving you these visuals. And here it is. There's the broken down sheath. There's the normal, balanced. Like electrical wires. So what happens with an electrical wire if that protective coating, that plastic or rubber, whatever they use on there, what happens if it gets cracked or it breaks off? The wires short out. It's exactly what happens. It helps messages from the brain move quickly through the body, electrical flow. Here it is. And there's the visual. Multiple sclerosis is the most common demyelinating disease of the central nervous system. In this disorder, your immune system attacks it. This causes inflammation, injury. You can read these. I gave you quite a bit, but the reason is I gave you to understand this, get this deep into your subconscious so you understand this. When you're working on someone, remember, where does healing happen, everyone? Where does it begin? It begins in the consciousness of the healer. What you extend to people in knowing that someone comes in with MS, you're knowing that you can help them. And you're not only do you just know it in your heart and in your mind, you actually understand how it works in that knowing. So that's what you're putting into the field, their energy field through your energy field. That conveyance is the way of the healer. And that's why I'm teaching you these, so that you can follow this in your mind and understand it as best you can. We don't have 8 years of medical school. Not that you don't need it. We can understand what our teachers taught us. The myelin is an insulating layer or sheath that forms around nerves, including those in the brain and spinal cord. Here it is, everyone. Here's our job. Here is what we need to understand so we can reestablish the integrity of it. What is it made? Because when you call me and other conversations in my book, I'll say, what is it made of? So they got this and this and this condition, this disease, which I'm really not interested, but what is whatever they're calling it? How are they describing it? What is it? What is happening? Well, there's a breakdown. There's a breakdown in this brain and spinal cord. Well, what is that made of? Protein and fatty substances. That's what we need to give people to begin and bring them back or sustain them where they're at in their MS. That's our job, is to reestablish the balance in the reserves of the body. The myelin sheath allows electrical impulses to be transmitted. The myelin is damaged, these impulses slow down and cause that disease. So this is a great article, just tells the difference, because just for your understanding, and maybe you understand all this, that's great. So forgive me, you don't have to read through this, but if you don't, you should read through this so you can explain it to your clients. We don't have to become a medical doctor, but if a client knows that you understand what this is, the difference between the spinal cord and the spine, you could say, well, everybody understands that. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe there's one little thing that you didn't know. So this is all important. Now, John was huge, not to mention supplements and with disease processes. So, but this is my teacher, Mark Anderson's teacher. Great man. After Lee died, he took over in teaching and providing information and formulation. People with degenerative conditions must be equally careful to avoid using products containing aluminum. Now, I know a lot of you know this, but for the record, to have this on this recording, I want to make sure that this is on here. Because aluminum destroys the phospholipid material that protects the cell. So what did we say? What are these cells in the spinal cord and brain made from? Protein and fat. Aluminum destroys the fatty piece of this. For example, the aluminum deodorants penetrates the skin and destroys the phospholipid material, which protects the nerve cells. They should never be using deodorants that affect the nerves under the arm, ever. The nerves are then short-circuited and the person stops perspiring. As soon as he builds up protective sheath of phospholipid material around the cells, he starts to perspire again, then repeats the whole process. So very simple, John, in his teaching, but profound. You can see how this works against nature. You are destroying this protective sheath around the nerve tissue by dissolving it with aluminum. What did I say? One of the big factors is chemical poisoning. This is chemical poisoning. Fluoride is chemical poisoning. This is how bad aluminum is, yet the government says you can't tell people that, can't tell that to people. People who sell stainless steel can't say that stainless steel is better than aluminum. And he was talking about pots and pans. This becomes apparent in a big lawsuit a few years ago in Texas. The decision was handed down that aluminum cannot be publicly criticized for a health standpoint, from the health standpoint. Yet we know how bad it is. So remember that neurotrophin, getting back to products now, is the #1 product because the protomorphogen acts as a decoy. It literally, when the immune system, when the breakdown of the brain and the spinal cord, when those nucleoproteins get into the bloodstream, the body says, can't be in here. I can't use you. The body can only make amino acids and make a selection from those 22 or use all of them to make new cells. It can't use proteins from dead tissue. And so when it gets into the blood, the immune system says, I'm going to create antibodies to get rid of these necrotic tissues called antigens. So the body gets rid of those, then it goes, the immune system goes to the source. It does not want that continually happening. This is why it is not a malfunction of the immune system. The immune system is doing what it's supposed to, what it was created to do, is to get rid of what does not serve. Whether it's pathogen, bacteria, parasites, viruses, or any type of necrotic tissue in the body, the immune system gets rid of it, usually through first the lymphatics or the production of T cells and B cells and other white blood cells to get rid of it. So this is why, and remember, this should be taken on an empty stomach. You all should know this well by now. Anything on any label of standard process that says PMG is got to be on an empty stomach. Otherwise, your body will digest it as meat. You want it to work as an antigen. You want it to work to distract the immune system instead of attacking your brain and spinal cord or the clients, the individual with MS, to attack that instead. So this becomes, as Mark has taught us, an oral antigen. Never enters the bloodstream. This distraction from the immune system takes place in the lymphatics, mainly around the gut, around the small intestine. That's where this battle goes on. Now, you know, and I put this protocol in here because I'm just looking at time, excuse me. Because one of the main factors, one of the traumas that sets off, one of the primary ones that sets off MS is head trauma. Yes, we looked at mental and emotional. We looked at memory. Yes, all of that. But physical head trauma, and here is again your protocol, neurotrophin. Here is your fatty acids. Here is your B vitamins, and here is RNA. And I'll get into RNA so you know why it's in my, also consider in my MS protocol and this one as well. And here's your Gotu-Kola. Here's your neuroplex, hypothalamus, pituitary, even more, pouring it on. Now, most of you only know these four, but there are others in head trauma that you could and should use. Now, why would, after considering this immune distraction, this immune effect that protomorphogens have, why would I ever use calcifood? Well, for one thing, it does strengthen the spinal column for sure, if there is a breakdown there from trauma. Here is why, everyone. Calcifood is made from veal ribs, meat, marrow, and all. Do you see that? And all. What does that mean? And all. Spinal cord. And now I don't know if they still do it, but originally calcifood, they ground up the whole veal spine, had the cord in it. Why is that so significant? Because the cord will have a protomorphogen in it. It will have spinal cord protomorphogen. And that's not just for multiple sclerosis. That's for a lot of these neurological conditions where the immune system is attacking. Parkinson's, all of them. Huge. So I can't give you 100%, and I don't even know if standard would reveal it, but as far as I know, this is all still in there in this product. The other big factor with this is what did we say was needed to heal and sustain and maintain the brain and spinal cord? Proteins and fat. What is our diet sadly lacking? You say, oh, well, you know, I eat a lot of protein, but cooked protein, any protein cooked over body temperature has lost 8 of the 22 essential amino acids. They're gone. That protein is of little value. Calcifood gives you all 22 amino acids. It's all in there. Now, they do heat this, but not, it's about 120 degrees, a little bit above body temperature, just for legal reasons. But all the 22 amino acids are not destroyed. This is a living protein food. And listen, I take 6 of the wafers a day. I have most of my life. So very essential in MS. You've got to reestablish the balance of what that nerve sheath is made out of, and it's made out of protein and fat. The nerve sheath does not need carbohydrate. Forget it. The brain doesn't need carbohydrate. It needs protein and fat. So the other really essential product is super EFF. Now that is known as vitamin F2. Now you could say, well, what's wrong with vitamin F in the fish oils? Nothing, nothing, completely good. But here is a big factor of MS. Now, you could say, well, Joe, you don't know this for sure. I do know it for sure. I'll be that arrogant. So you can chastise me for that. People with MS do not have the capacity in their liver to convert these fats into fatty acids. So break them down enough so that they can be utilized. They don't have the ability. I don't think they would have MS and these other neurological conditions if their liver was in that greater shape. F2 gives you the vitamin F repair factors and those essential fatty acids and unsaturated fatty acids. Without it, it's already broken down. They're pre-digested. Now, Cataplex F tablets is a third, 1/3, write this in your notes, 1/3 F2. Vitamin F tablets is 1/3 F2, super EFF. So, hold on here. We have taken the liberty of designating the new one, vitamin F. We consider this F to be identical with Mirvich's blood calcium depressor found in oatmeal. It is also present in considerable amounts in rye, but there appears to be little wheat. Oh, that's not what I wanted to read. Here's what I wanted to read. It was suggested that the physiological effect of vitamin F was opposite to D on the serum calcium. This is the other thing with individuals with MS. Now, some D is needed, but D should never be taken, everyone, unless F is also present. Cod liver oil has D and F in it. This is a nature food. This is a wonder food. But most vitamin D products on the market do not include a vitamin F factor. So therefore, the vitamin D, the calcium from the blood never gets to the tissue. And in MS, that's disaster. You've got to get calcium into the muscle to help the muscle function. You've got to get calcium into that nerve sheath as well. Essential mineral for healing. So this is what he's saying here. It was suggested that the physiological effect of vitamin F was opposite D on the serum calcium, and that it might be found as a preventative of sunstroke and an antidote for the toxic effects of overdose of D. Here is the other thing I wanted to read. The most spectacular results, however, are seen in some cases of atrophy of muscular tissue. And remember, nerve sheath too, commonly suspected to be of multiple sclerosis type. There it is. But apparently due to a deficiency of F2. We cannot state as yet whether all muscular atrophies, dystrophies, are specific results of F2 deficiency. We assume they're not. But in my opinion, I think they are. Vitamin F2, super EFF, remember, the F2 effect may be mainly in preserving the tissue determinants. In other words, it's sustaining the integrity of the nerve sheath, of the brain. What is the brain? 60 to 70% fat, without which new cells or cell repair cannot take place. There it is. Now, I'm going to give you, this is all from Dr. Lee. I'm not going to read through this because I want to be able to get through the rest of my lecture here. But I do want to say this. I'll read this part. You may understand, you make unsaturated fatty acid extracts from the beef kidney fat, and you'll get a very potent vitamin F. The potency is measured in its ability to diffuse calcium into the muscle. Now, the super EFF, or the vitamin, or the F2, as we designed it, is an extract of beef liver, which is not a free fatty acid, but it's a combination of a fatty acid with a glycerol phosphoric acid. That is what protects the nerve sheath. It's different than other fatty acids as well. Chemically, it is known as one of the lecithin or cephalin group of substances. It's one of the old stories. So, and he goes in and he explains this and how it can be used with nerve debilitation and loss of appetite and other things. So here it is. Any degenerative condition where the cells are rapidly deteriorating, this form of vitamin F is readily utilized because it is already metabolized. Remember I said it's pre-digested. Dr. Lee called Super FF a chromosome protector. I'll get to that in a minute. It contains the phospholipid material, which protects the cells. So you can read through this and all the information on. So neurotrophin and Super EFF. And now we've talked about calcifood and its attributes in the protocol. But these two are your key products for any degenerative, tachycardia, nausea, weight loss, all of these, any type of atrophy. And here it really says it the best. It acts as an insulating layer or wrapper for the determinant. So that's the nerve sheath that guide the reactions of healing and construction, an important factor in anemias, for example. The above effect has been found clinically useful in the promotion of healing and inflammatory conditions, particularly those involving the lymphatic system. So you can read through all of this and understand that without the vitamin F2, known as Super EFF in product form, comes in a capsule, this myelin sheath cannot be repaired. Remember, you need the protein and the fatty acid. So there it is. Now, I'm not going to read through this, but I want you to know how bad aluminum is, which I know you know, but read through all of these and put these, get a visual for your clients. Use some of these slides because they're getting aluminum and they're not even realizing all summer long, right? They cook these, put them on the grill, and deodorants, of course. And here's a great, you can see this myelin sheath, how it has layers here and protecting that nerve sheath, which is so important. And the other area, which we're not going to go into today, but when they got the aluminum substance out of these people's diets, their dementia diminished. Now, it depends how much damage has been done. It depends how much complete protein and fatty acids they have available to them. But anyone that has brain or mental or spinal cord issues or damage must have the fatty acids and the neurotrophin and the protein. And you can read through these. Now, what would you say? I put this in because I know you're thinking, well, Joe, what do I do? What do I do if they've had aluminum all their life? What do I do if someone with MS has mercury fillings? What do I do? What do I do when you are gone away? Here it is, the heavy metal detox. And there's 3 products here, which are very important. So the first thing the body needs to do, and you have to assist the body in doing that, is the parotids have to tag that foreign molecule, whether it's aluminum, whether it's mercury, whatever it is. The parotid plays its part in tagging. Then you have to chelate it. You have to attach a substance to that metal, whatever it is, so that it can be carried out of the body. And the highest chelating herbs on earth. Now, Kerry Bone did a lot of research on this. That's why this is such a great product. Is garlic, hawthorn, and milk thistle. That's what Chelaco is. It's a great product to use anyway if you want garlic and milk thistle and hawthorn. But these are the highest chelating agents in herbs in a product. So there's that. And then we used to have Cholecol 2. Now they have another absorbent product, but I've never used it. It just came out, so I can't comment on it. But I found this company out of Austin, Texas, if they're still there. And this is your montmorillonite clay. This is the same exact substance as what that was in Cholecol 2, the clay, less the bile salts. Cholecol 2 had this clay and the bile salts. So I looked around, found the best quality that I knew of, and this is the other one. These are the 3. Remember to use this on an empty stomach in between meals, mid-morning, mid-afternoon, not with food. So if you've had training with MediHerb, you understand about the telomeres. So they are at the end of the chromosome. So the chromosome has, obviously each chromosome has a beginning and end, and those ends begin to fray, just like your shoelaces can fray if that end plastic is not on there. Well, that's what the telomere is. So that's the chromosome protector. That's what prevents the chromosome from breaking down and therefore giving DNA material, poorly replicated DNA material, from getting into the system. It keeps the chromosome buttoned up. That's why Dr. Lee described vitamin F2, super EFF, as the cell chromosome protector. Okay, so you can read this through. It's a great article and understand. So how are we going to protect? This is also in the also considered products, but very important. This is important right now because the RNA is the part that not only boosts leukocytes. So what are leukocytes? Well, leukocytes are cells that circulate in the blood and the bodily fluids and are involved in counteracting foreign substances and disease. White blood cells, there are several types, and we know them as lymphocytes, monocytes, macrophages, all of these. These not only get rid of pathogens, but they are also a protector. So, and they are a protector of the chromosome in addition to the super-EFF, but they also allow the right distribution of the accurate DNA. So you're not getting replication of false DNA material. So, and Dr. Lee says it very well here. DNA is exclusively found in the nucleus of the cell, okay? Probably in the chromatin. Ribonucleic acid is found, RNA is found in the chromatin and in the wall between the core of the cell and the cytosol, the cytoplasm, okay? It is the RNA fraction in the nucleoprotein, which is a growth promoter when added to tissue in vitro. And so it also helps, just so you know, in the cytoplasmic content of RNA is associated with protein synthesis and cell division. It helps the cells to function better. So, and what was the other I wanted to read? Oh, yes. So here it is. University of Illinois, Carnegie can call DNA the nuclear material whose link to the helixes carrying the hereditary information. So here is the right replication. This is so important, everyone, because everybody's concerned with mRNA right now. Any information coming into the cell, right? It's a huge topic right now. RNA is the key to giving the body the right information. So if you think the body's getting the wrong information, genetically, wrong genetic expression in any way, whether it's related to viruses or diseases or any condition, this is really important, everyone. You want to give the body something. You've got to give something that is going to protect the telomeres, yes, and also to keep making sure that the DNA is expressing as is whole, complete, normal, balanced. And that is the RNA, carrying the hereditary information and the messenger RNA that transports the information into the cell cytoplasm. The correct, pure, perfect information gets into the larger part of the cell from the nuclear protein of the cell. Now, this is a bit technical, but I hope you got this. This is why RNA is the memory factor. It's the part, it's the substance that helps your body to remember to heal. It's the part, the natural substance from yeast that helps your brain to remember. It helps all the cells to remember. So read this through. This is a very significant. The two things I read you are extremely significant to any repair. You put super-EFF and RNA together, that person's going to start to heal. Now, you need 1,000 milligrams of RNA a day. That's 6 a day. And I think that's what I have. Let me just look. Yes, 6 a day. This was published back in the 1960s. A doctor wrote a whole book on RNA. And unfortunately, it got passed by. He said RNA is the fountain of youth. Along with the protomorphogens, in my opinion, it is. Anybody over 60 should be taking 6 RNA a day. And I know you're thinking, Joe, I take so much stuff. I know, but to prevent aging and breakdown and inaccurate replication in the cell network, you need the RNA. So the other product in my protocol is Minchex. Now that's a combination. This is from John. You can read this through. Mintran is half calcium lactate and half organically bound minerals and half Orchex. Orchex is the orchic material, natural tranquilizer, and niacinamide B6. So essential part of the B complex. So there's Mintran, because when a person with multiple sclerosis, from the very beginning, from the day they hear you have MS, medical science says you have MS, that's when the anxiety starts. This is the product. Now, I would rather see people taking straight Mintran and straight Orchex, but I had to put in my protocol the combination because I was limited. But I said, I've got to get these substances into people with MS. I have to. And so I'm running out of time here, but so you can go through this. I've lectured to you on Orchex before. Orchex, which is half Minchex, helps with the relaxation and the control of the nerve synapses. Someone with MS has no control of their nerve synapses. The downstream effect of the breakdown of the spinal cord is that they lose nerve muscle control. So that's the downstream effect. The effect of MS is in the muscle, in the nerves, in the muscle. This is where Orchex and Mintran combined in Minchex plays its part. Because what Orchex does is it regulates these chemicals called neurotransmitters between the nerve poles of the nerve axon and dendrite. Okay, so you don't have to remember all of that. That's too complicated. How many nerve synapses do you have in your brain? 100 trillion. How many nerve synapses do you have throughout your body? 1,000 trillion. Do you think you need something that helps, not you, but someone with neurological problems, with high blood pressure, with anxiety and depression? Do you think these things are firing off out of control? And that's what the blessing of that product, Minchex or Orchex. Now, if you want to look at herbs for that, that's why in my also consider I have St. John's wort, because St. John's wort is the primary herb, and ginkgo, by the way, are the primary herbs for the hypothalamus. Okay. And it is that helps with the dopamine balance, not only in Parkinson's, but with any neurological condition, because the hypothalamus is the bridge between the nervous system and the endocrine system. So if you don't have good dopamine balance, what is coming, the information from the nervous system, because of this breakdown in the nerve sheath and the brain in relationship to multiple sclerosis, that information is not getting through unless dopamine is balanced and the hypothalamus is functioning properly to the endocrine system, which is going to help regulate and heal and repair. Without that information getting through from the nervous system to the endocrine system, healing cannot occur. It's the endocrine system that provides that total balance throughout the body so it can heal. But without the hypothalamus, the endocrine system can't get the information from the outer world to that inner world. And of course, the last product in my protocol, the primary product, is Cardio Plus. Now, you could say, Joe, why did you do that? Well, because what does MS primarily affect? Muscle coordination, because it's lost the nerve flow. There's the cardiotrophin. The G in the Cardio Plus, remember, I would give them all of these individually, but you can't. That's why you have to give them large amounts of this. But this product really helps people with MS. The G for, again, this has a lot to do with how fat is regulated and used in the body. It's a lipo, it has lipotropic factors, as John taught us. It helps with these lipids, with these fatty acids, and help them to work even better, this part of the B complex. E2 is for relaxation and more oxygen. One of the other things with people with MS is they have a hard time breathing. They can get to that point. And oxygen to the muscle. And again, more vitamin C for that collagen repair. The intercellular cement that helps those proteins, the collagen made of those proteins, to stay glued together so that the collagen isn't coming apart. And of course, adrenal, and you'll see, and choline, which again is part of that Cataplex G, just more of it, is all in this product. Choline helps with that pineal hypothalamus, just so you know. It is the key supplement to pineal and hypothalamus, all in here. And then, of course, the adrenal support. So I'll let you look through those. And there are other products in as far as MS that I go into, and I've given you all these articles. You need the B vitamins, but as I said, specific ones, the ones in the Cataplex G, the choline, B12. You need vitamin B12 to help maintain your myelin sheath. See it? Now, that would be in the Cataplex G, but you could use extra if you thought. Now, from an herbal standpoint, we talked about gotu kola, we talked about ginkgo and some other herbs, but they have been doing experiments with licorice, glycyrrhizin, that phytochemical in the licorice. And what they realized was that the substance is in there helped the neurons to relax. And it's explained here to determine the benefit of glycyrrhizin, the licorice, as a modulator of neuroinflammation. We used this study along with cortical neurons affect and the release of them into the tissue. Treatment of mice onset peak stage of disease resulted in marked attenuation. Now, what that means is it slowed down it reduced the inflammation and breakdown, attenuation of demyelination. Here it is. Cell infiltration and demyelination. So licorice decreased tumor necrosis. And what was the other thing? Oh, yes, and increased the integrity in the serum and spinal cord. Here it is. Now, this is very technical, but you can read through and you can get it. In the different bodily fluids, we reduce the damaging accompanied by a decrease in neurological damage. So licorice was huge in that. And adrenal complex is licorice and Rehmannia complex. So you can, I also put in, if you want to use, you could make a blend. You don't have to use my brain blend, but you could use a blend of Gotu Kola and licorice together with ginkgo or St. John's wort. You could use those three. I should have put that in there. I'll make a note, put that in there. A blend for MS, right? Perfect. For MS. Yes, great. There are other things that people with MS have used, and that is this cannabis extract. And I've talked to this. You can read about this in my Parkinson's lecture. And I have clients, friends and clients that have used this to help relaxation, that whole anxiety. And this was a very interesting article on using homeopathy with MS, and the story of this woman that it completely, according to the story, using arnica, balanced with cerebral congestion and MS and spinal flow. So this was very good. One of the big things now, and I'm going to leave you with this thought, not going to spend a lot of time on this because I've said what I wanted to basically say in relationship to MS. They're finding now that this mononucleosis, do you remember the kissing disease in school and college, high school and college, is Epstein-Barr virus. Of course, we've talked about viruses. This is an envelope virus. That's why St. John's wort is so important with this. But Epstein-Barr virus has long been thought to be linked to autoimmune disorders, such as lupus. And now they're saying that it also is tied in specifically with these other conditions, but look at the number one, multiple sclerosis. Science study identifies how Epstein-Barr virus triggers multiple sclerosis. So we know that and have a better, hopefully a clearer picture today now of the causes, which they say they don't know the cause of MS. But we know is the breakdown of that nerve sheath through malnutrition and the attacking of the immune system on the spinal cord and brain. But the other big factor, which is coming to the fore, are these envelope viruses. So you can read through this and you could say, well, what do we do with this? Well, here's my protocol for Epstein-Barr virus. So you can read through this, and the article on St. John's wort and MS related to Epstein-Barr virus. Viranon is another one for viruses. And these articles by Mark Anderson, Lynn Mayer, and then we think John Brady from IFNH, who's now passed away, bless his soul, about how to work with these viruses, specifically envelope viruses. So you have all of this information. We have given you the link to these lectures before, but I decided to print them out for you. So when you print this out, you'll have all of this to be able to copy and give to your clients on viruses, and the children's protocol too for viruses. So because our relationship with viruses, of course, has changed forever and will be at the fore probably for the rest of the time that we're on this planet, for sure. So, and then John Brady, who wrote this article, quote from Dr. Lee on viruses as well. So I hope you have enjoyed this hour and a half. I certainly have, as always, to give you the insight that is sorely needed for MS and the challenges that individuals have, and the part that we can play in, I'm just trying to find my protocol, the part that we can play as nutritionists, as healers, in an adjuvant way, added onto way to what we already provide for them. Yes, we know that they need physical therapy. They need acupuncture. They need chiropractic. They need hyperbaric chamber, craniosacral, stress relievers, from prayer to meditation. Yes. And the most important thing for these individuals, as I said, this inability to cope and to be okay within themselves is such a key mental and emotional part. And I want to leave you with this thought, is as the Eagles song Desperado, these individuals must be able to let somebody love them, that before it's too late. These individuals need to begin to learn to trust, to open their hearts and heal those wounded parts. Remember that we grow strongest in the broken places. But these individuals need that safety, that stress-free life, so that they can work with this very challenging condition we know has been called multiple sclerosis, and to let somebody in so that they can trust and help them navigate their journey through life in the midst of this great challenge. As my father said, we can't necessarily get over these things, but we can get through them and beyond them. So I leave you that today with my blessing, and I look forward to talking with you all next Tuesday on my Heart Sound recording webinar. Blessings to all of you.